Good day. This is Moor Talk episode 12. I'm Yasiin Bey with moorsdirectory.com, and episode 12 deals with logics and common sense. Now, that's somewhat of an oxymoron because common sense, is not as common as the saying infers. But what will occur in episode 12 is we're going to talk about those things that would be considered as logical or common sense, all right, in the colloquial sense. All right, you may notice that I'm not wearing my fez today for a very particular reason, and that this is dealing with an aspect of day-to-day, real-world common realities that are extremely important. Excuse me one moment. Thank you. And with that being the case, I felt that it was more appropriate to just wear what I usually would wear every other day. And I don't walk around with my fez on every day. I know some people wear their fez every day, and that's fine. We're all different, and we should all be allowed to do whatever we do, which is most natural for us as long as it's not harming or infringing upon anyone else. Now, before I start this episode 12, I'd like to explain that the series operate within their own particular banks of information, such as Series 10 is dealing with physics and how that relates to our real world. 11.1, 11.2, that's dealing with Kabbalah or Kabbalah and how that relates to our everyday world and existence. And all of this information, no matter what series it is, will allow you to, or assist you in appreciating certain things which, if adhered to, may assist you in navigating this perceived reality perhaps a little bit less scathed. Okay? Now, a couple people have emailed me and asked a couple questions. One of them was what the bracelet here that I wear, what it was and what it meant. So I'll just kind of show a close-up of that for you. Okay, that's called a Kala chakra. Kala chakra. And I'll put up on the screen here for you the correct spelling of that, and its more formal, fuller name also, and challenge you to look up what it is. It's not hard to find, and the discipline is one which I adhere to. I don't consider it an aspect of, per se, religion in the context that most would. But as many of you may know, I consider religion as simply religioning myself to that of my ancient forebearers. Others have asked me what the emblem is around my neck that I always wear. And I'll just show you a little closer. And yes, that's Harry H. Truman. And you might say, well, why is he wearing Harry Truman around his neck? It's a commemorable. But I found it interesting. I walked into a pawn shop one day, and they had a little box called the dollar box, and anything within it was $1. And I had never been in the store before. And I looked into the box, and this just kind of jumped out at me. It was sitting right on top. The box was only about so big. It was sitting right on top with the backside showing. All right, and so I took it out and I turned it around and I saw Harry H. Truman in a Moorish fez, and found it very interesting, and it had Latin inscriptions upon it, which, of course, I wanted to find out what the inscription was, so I had to give up a fiat, what they call a dollar, to obtain it. Okay, so I gave the note and made the purchase, and it turned out to be very interesting. That's why I put it on the pendant. It wasn't on the pendant originally, but I put it on there. And what it says is simply, I know the secret. And of course, the secret is us. Okay. So anyway, getting back to, I'd had a couple requests as to what the emblem was, and I just thought that I'd share it with others in case they were wondering also. This one here is a meditation stone, and it assists one in pondering. All right. Episode 12, I'm going to be sharing a couple clips of things that I thought were significant, and certainly of a timely nature because of what is going on right now. And this may, of course, date itself by me mentioning when it is exactly right now. This is just before this is being made or produced, right before the inauguration of the corporation's next president. And I thought that there were a couple things that I remembered having watched that I thought it would be worthwhile sharing. And I thought that episode 12 would be a fit place to share this information because I think it's valuable for us to listen to. Now, also I wanted to say this. Sometimes people call me and they say, so-and-so and such said whatever. Matter of fact, I just realized something. I'm going to switch hats for a moment, because this actually has to do more so with what we're talking about. Now, this symbol, this is a hat that I wear most often. All right. And the symbol means, or stands for, that sigil means, if you can read it, and I'm not sure because I can't see it, patience, which is very important. And it's important for us to try to remain mindful. Remaining mindful is conscious of things such as patience. It's a virtue, which when applied will always benefit whatever situation that you're in 99.999% of the time. Right? And the reason I say 99.999 is because, like I just said, nothing is infallible. Just like people are not infallible. No one is infallible. Matter of fact, let's take me as an example, as a prime example. I do my absolute best to ensure that the information that I provide can always be counted upon. I do my absolute best to research well, and I've had decades practice as a professional researcher of intellectual properties law for over 30-something years. But that doesn't mean that I can't either provide some information that may have changed, been modified, or that my particular interpretation of something at a given time may not have been as precisely correct as I thought at the time that it was. But I will absolutely do my best to give the most sound information as possible, something that someone can rest upon, stand under, believe to be true, and utilize with the greatest amount of security. But I don't try to profess that the words coming out of my mouth are infallible, nor do I think most of the good teachers, researchers, the intellects that are out there communicating try to do anything less. I think they actually do try to provide the absolute best information that they can. However, no one, again, is infallible. Times change. Case in point, there may be things that even Noble Drew Ali may have stated that in fact were absolutely correct 100% based upon the particular time in which he lived. And you have to understand that that's not ancient history. When you're talking about returning to the mindset of your ancient forebearers, Noble Drew Ali, his time period in which he existed on this planet was not what we should consider as ancient. So he would not be considered as one of our ancient forebearers. That would be one of those that would be perhaps going back to the time of Yahshua ben Yusuf, the one that some call Jesus. That might be considered more so ancient. But he himself even spoke of and taught about things which were forgotten by the people of his time, that he was saying that they were suffering from a lack of knowledge that was commonplace knowledge and understanding relative to his ancient forebearers. And if you were looking at, let's say, the Davidic order by way of the string of the Melchizedek priests, that may have had a greater degree of information than that which was being disseminated by the Pharisees and Sadducees. What he was saying was that as time goes on, information is not just forgotten, changed, or often purposefully taken from people, so that they must only have the resources and ability to rest upon things that others have provided to them. And I often say that if you rest upon purely the information that was provided to you by a group of people whom have historically never had your best interest at heart, then chances are, more than likely, what you know or what you believe you know is most likely not for your own good. And that it would be behoove of you to do your own research. Now, if you do receive some information, let's say from a very reliable brother like Yasiin Bey, I know for a fact that he is not the type of individual, at least doesn't come across as a type of individual to me. I don't think I'm wrong in this respect, as being one that would consider himself infallible. But he also, I have heard him say, don't take my word for it. Do your research, but I'm providing you some information at least where you know where you can start researching. Verify, validate what I say. And you'll find probably 99.999% of, if not 100% of what he says to be true. But he doesn't try to present himself as being infallible. Same would be true for a lot of the credible individuals that are out there. But also be wary of those package sellers that are, for a great extent, often simply parroting what they've heard others say, maybe in YouTube presentations, or let's say taking some things directly off of R.B. Bey and presenting them as being their own material, selling packages of information that is readily available to you, let's say off the Moorish directory, or other credible resources such as Moorish government public records, or any of the other sites that are huge beneficial resources to our community and readily accessible to us free of charge, and presenting them as being material that is worthy of you paying hundreds of dollars to obtain a copy of. Now, if you're the type of person that would prefer to simply be spoon-fed information or to receive a package, and it takes someone's energies, whatever, to put that package together and or fill it, help you in filling it out and packaging it up and taking it to the post office, and you want to pay them for that, then that's fine. That's just like if you're wish to go to a restaurant instead of cooking your own food. You may be spending an exorbitant amount because you want to go to a fancy restaurant and, pay $50 for a salad. That's your prerogative. But recognize that you could also grow your own salad or go to any of the local markets, farmers markets even, and get that same salad for a couple pennies. But recognize that there are, in fact, individuals out there that do take an extremely predatory posture with respect to servicing our hungering and thirsting community, and be wary of that. I would encourage others to go to, let's say, the Dirty Moors page on the Moorish directory and take a look at the various spectrum of those that might be providing certain amount of information. Not all of them purposefully, as a purely predatorial type of individual might do, but to be wary that in fact there are a great deal of individuals, groups, or coming to the public's eye every day whose primary purpose is just to make a living selling you information that you can get otherwise for free. Information which is your heritage information, legacy, and in actuality not that difficult to obtain, because there has been those who have taken the time over the course of years to research in depth a great body of information and make it available for free and for your partaking of without a great deal of toil and effort. But it does take a little bit of effort to go through the process of reading. Now, we also understand and know that it is a reality that many in our community have difficulties in studying and some in comprehending. There may even be those that, let's say, are dyslexic or have problems reading. Now, being dyslexic or having problems reading has absolutely nothing to do with one's intelligence. It simply means that they are either dyslexic, which means that, the numbers flip around and, in odd ways, and they may write a sentence and look down and find that they've written it completely backwards. I suffer from dyslexia very severely, but over the course of time, I have equipped myself with various means, methods, and tricks and the rest of it, as well as recognizing that I have to pay close attention to certain things so that I can be a little bit more diligent about the representation of my material, so that you won't be looking at it and find a lot of words spelled backwards or incorrectly or the rest of it. And because of my dyslexia, I've always had a problem with spelling. I'm probably one of the world's worst spellers, but I try to do my best, and I try to use the resources that we have at our disposal, such as spell check and the rest of it, that technology gives us. But still, nevertheless, you will find that my efforts are not always successful in that regards, but still, nevertheless, the information you will find is for the most part correct. But I say this and state this just to be a further encouragement for people to please, 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 please try not to be taken advantage of, and do not believe everything that you hear, because there is a great deal of bad information being disseminated these days. And try your best to vet the information, and should you find that someone is wrong about 3 or 4 things consistently, then chances are you may want to look up a better source of information for yourself. And that there are, in fact, those staples within our community resources where the information can be, in fact, counted on and rested upon with a great degree of assurity that they are correct. But do understand that when you go, let's use as an example, going into court and you're using a precedent that was set on a landmark case, let's say, do understand that even the Supreme Court has, their Supreme Court has been going back and changing even what would be called substantive law. So that when you walk into a court and you present a particular document, writ or what have you, or verbalize it, and you may find that they say, well, no, that's not what happened in that case, or that's not what that actually means as far as substantive law is concerned. Be aware of the fact that the Supreme Court itself has even been going back and rewriting history. This is not something that I'm just making up. As a matter of fact, it was written about extensively in the New York Times. You can actually obtain a copy of that particular article from the New York Times at the moorishdirectory.com, and I believe a couple other online Moorish resources that will show you that it's an important part of doing your own diligent resource gathering to verify that even the case law that you may come across is still considered good case law. Everything doesn't remain good law simply because it was once good law. That's called shepherdizing. And when you shepherdize information, you will often find that there are cases which were very sound cases to rest upon, that things have changed based upon cases which may have come after it, or unfortunately, simply because of the crooked wrongdoings of those who have an agenda to mislead the general public at large. So, that's all to say that those individuals that are doing their best to provide information for you are not infallible, so do not rest upon every word coming out of someone's mouth as being the gospel, so to speak, colloquially. Because things change. People do, in fact, come across information that may have had other elements to it that they were not aware of. I find that often happening when people are talking about trust law, because it is a very broad body of law in which one cannot just simply use a broad brush or throw a blanket over and thinking that you've heard a 30 or 40 minute or hour and a half dialogue on trust law that you can rest upon everything that was said, because there could very well be some very significant pertinent elements that were left out of that information. So if you were to be given, let's say, as another example, some information about accepted for value, don't just go basically on what the person said. Use that information as being a place to begin your own research. And you may find that there are a great deal of other stipulations which come into effect. And also be wary of those that would sell that package of goods as being the panaceums by which to get out of obligations. Always remember that a Moor's word is supposed to be their bond. And that if you enter into an agreement with someone, case in point, I'll use myself again as an example. In my private capacity as a business person or entrepreneur, you make a deal with me and I provide you with certain services, then I'm going to be expecting you to meet your end of the bargain. And if you come back to me when it is time for you to pay me as was agreed, and you hand me a note asking me to accept your signature for value, well, you're going to be sorely mistaken in thinking that I'm going to accept that. So recognize that there are a great deal of particulars that we need to begin to recognize as being important common practices of critical logic, and that our methodologies should be soundly resting upon information which we ourselves have vetted and have assured to the best of our ability is the best information that we can rest upon at any given particular time. So, with that, I'd like to move on to another subject and ask that for everyone who is participating in the many spirited discussions and intellectual debates across our very diverse Moorish paradigm to temper the tone of your disputes with an understanding that the manner in which we table our discussions and the demeanor in which we conduct ourselves in public forums across social media, with the understanding that our style of conversation illustrates, dictates, and defines the manner in which we will not only be viewed and framed in the eyes and minds of our many detractors, but also, more importantly, those new Moors standing at the threshold, looking in for solutions, answers, directions, and examples, anxious to join in our conscious understanding of what is not only possible and probable, but in actuality being brought to fruition in real time as we speak, act, and carry out those actions of kindness, valor, and historical importance. If you know of an individual or group who you would identify or would be underneath the framework of Noble Drew Ali's definition of a dirty Moor, we encourage you to contact the number on the Moorish Directory's Dirty Moors page and report their activities, package selling, spreading a false malicious rumor, or conducting themselves in a predatory manner, and we'll investigate it. But do not call that number if you have not first thoroughly investigated the matter yourself, because that is within itself spreading possible false rumor. And when you call, be sure to have a phone number in which we can call and validate and verify and interview these individuals. Not leaving a phone number will not allow for us to do so. And we are not going to take the time to do the research and track down a number of someone that you want us to report. We don't have the luxury of that time. So, should you need to leave a message on the Moorish Directory's Dirty Moor page hotline, please leave your phone number slowly. We're not going to take the recording back 20 times to try to figure out what it is that you're saying. We have people who call and they'll say, this is Jonathan Bey at 475-37434. And we're not going to keep running that back to try to figure out your number. All right, just take your time, leave the message, and we'll be sure to get back with you to clarify what it is that you'd like to report, and then we will follow through with the investigation. Getting back to the important discussion of how we communicate with one another across the social media landscape, we need to make a conscious effort to be more compassionate and tolerant of each other's views, opinions, and perspectives. It's you who are our future's history's creators. The uplifting of fallen humanity is not merely a tagline, but more importantly to understand completely is that it is also not a given, nor a matter which will simply come into being on its own. I received a phone call from an extremely active Moor, the Sheikh of Mecca's Temple Number 1, Sheikh Lavelle, with an extremely astute and paramountly important observation. His astute observation emanated from a certain fact provided within the Moor Talks Series 10 and 11. The information provided in this particular series he was viewing came from the publication entitled The Key, that metaphysics is not simply a supplement to Moor science, but is in fact the core key element and defining marrow and essence of what we call the functional operative cosmology of Moorish science. You see, Noble Drew Ali was not merely a mastermind sociologist, political anthropologist, and adept theologian. He was in as a pragmatist, a prophetic futurist, and practitioner of Melchizedek metaphysics, who understood that the uplifting of fallen humanity is a cause which will be effectuated from the subjective realm of being, not our objective plane, as a catalyst brought about by the causal effects of a critical mass, effectuated from the subjective realm of being, not our objective plane, but as a critical catalyst brought about by a group of individual metaphysical practitioners who have mastered the operative functional methodologies of Moorish science. That is metaphysics. That is why he placed the term so appropriately in the center of the temple's title. That was not haphazard, by chance, serendipitous, or happenstance. Without getting too deep into what would be more appropriately and will be addressed within the Moor Talks Series 10 and 11, it's extremely worthwhile to consider the benefit of marinating upon the following concept: that as we calibrate our individual unique vibratory frequencies by way of the studying of appropriate Moorish science, the bottom line is that now is the time in which we are to again religion ourselves on a metaphysical as well as physical, biological mindset of our ancient forebearers. Now you might say, well, how can a mindset be biological? Well, we have been short-circuited, and through a recalibration of our proper unique vibratory frequencies. And when I say unique, I'm saying that each of us individually, just like a thumbprint, have our own unique frequency and tone. Just like light goes through a graduated spectrum, So does sound. Sound and the light are exactly the same, however, just on different portions of the energy spectrum. An actual biological reconstructing the neural fiber networks of our being. That is what is meant by the term returning to the mindset of our ancient forebearers. It is the physical recalibration. And through that calibration, by the way, what occurs, I don't know, many of you may be too young to remember, there used to be a Memorex commercial in which Ella Fitzgerald, jazz singer, would hit a particular note, and that note would shatter a wine glass. Well, that is what occurs once one has properly recalibrated vibratory frequency. And what it is shattering is the calcification that has been built up around your pineal gland, which in fact is the conduit, the window to the soul of man, the bridge between this objective plane and our subjective realm of operation, out of which our objective reality, that reality in which objects exist, comes forth and resides. Getting back out to our previous point, respecting one another in a manner which affords us the ability to demonstrate our responsibilities or being able to respond appropriately. Responsibility to converse with one another with respect and in a manner that will further our progress of re-civilizing ourselves, which is a critical component and aspect. It is imperative that we understand that we must reach a critical mass numeric factor of masterminds which will have the ability to effectuate the uplifting of fallen humanity. Because again, it is not simply a tagline which will come about on its own. It's not going to take all of us, only a particular number. Let's say, I'll just pick a number, 144,000, let's say. Doesn't sound like much, but that's what's required. And the only thing that is required, that it will take as the catalyst of that critical mass to effectuate a self-perpetuating chain reaction, one that will send a shockwave globally through the hearts and minds of men. So for those of you who may not have had opportunity or taken opportunity to view the two videos which are at the bottom of the inner standing page on the moorishdirectory.com, please do take an opportunity to view those two. It's a two-part video, Learn to Love Part 1 and Learn to Love Part 2. The discussion being held there between a physicist and a biologist will help you to appreciate and clarify for you an understanding and the methodologies in which Noble Drew Ali spoke of when he spoke of the importance of teaching our sons and daughters to learn to love instead of hate. That critically important statement, mothers teach your sons to love instead of hate, is by no means nor measure simply a flowery rhetoric. That statement is in fact the most important cosmology of consciousness. The term ology means study of, such as paleontology, zoology, anthropology, archaeology, meteorology, astrology, biology, pharmacology. These are all studies of those particular sciences. So when we're looking at cosmology, it would be the study of the cosmos, the heavens, such as astrology would be a related science to cosmology. cosmology is the study of systems. Just like, let's say, for instance, let's take the example of cosmetology. Okay, that is the study of systems. It might be regarding the systems which give one healthy hair or a healthy, vibrant skin, such as an example, when I was in the Coast Guard. The Coast Guard is a humanitarian service, life-saving. At the time I was in, it was smaller than, globally, it was smaller than the New York Police Department in its forces. Now, of course, it's probably much larger. I went to the clinic because I had a rash that had broken out on my face, and the physician took a look at it, and he said, "Oh, I know exactly what that is." And I said, "Well, what is it, Doc?" "Well, you've got a serious case of pseudoficulitis of the superficial fascia." I was pretty concerned at that point, and so I asked him, "Well, what is that?" "Razor bump." That's what that is. It is superficial fascia, means the largest organ of your body, which is your skin, and the pseudoficulitis was the eruption or irritation of that. So that was the pseudoficulitis of the superficial fascia, means razor bump. That was a cosmological diagnosis, a diagnosis arrived at by the study of the science of the skin. All right, so study of is ology. So when we stop and think about it, in actuality, everything falls into or underneath the category of theology, which is the study of theology. Theology is the study of or the study of self, or the study of the Creator. And the Creator is consciousness, and all is mind. And to reiterate with the quote from Albert Einstein, who said, "Life or reality, physical reality, is but an illusion, albeit a persistent one." Because we're talking about on the lowest level, below what they call the Planck level, which is subatomic, all things become consciousness. And it is the methodology of that system, which is love, the essence of our Creator, of which we are part and parcel of, which will be the determinate factor as to whether or not you will have an opportunity to be among the chosen number to participate in the uplifting of fallen humanity. So, just as a recap, when you do have an opportunity to take advantage of viewing those two videos, part 1 and part 2, Learn to Love part 1 and Learn to Love part 2, at the bottom of the inner standing page on the MoorishDirectory.com, you will find great benefit in doing so. So with that little sidebar excursion and detour, we're going to go ahead and get back to what we were talking about, just wrapping up the aspect of respecting one another, and then we'll move forward. Respecting opinions is extremely important because it allows for us to participate in the process of becoming more civilized. And matter of fact, one of the clips I'm going to show you that just gave me an idea. It's going to contain some information regarding exactly that, from a brother that you're very familiar with, Brother Bey, who, aka Most Def, speaks towards that. And within these clips, there are some very important lessons that can be learned. I had to take a slight break there because the dogs began barking. I'm not working from the studio today. I'm working from home. And I didn't want their barking to mess up the production. So excuse me for that. But it allowed for me to actually, I remembered something in one of the notes that I had been asked what the symbol was on my shirt. So I thought that might be also something that others might find interesting, which is not exactly for this episode. First of all, I'll just show it what it is. Now, there's another important thing to mention within this particular symbol. And I'll explain that with more specificity probably in episode 11, because it is dealing with metaphysics to a certain degree, the polarity aspect of it, but there's also that important trinity aspect of it as well. And of course, we'll be talking about it in episode 10, because it's dealing with physics as well, and something which is called vortex-based mathematics. And comprehensively, that's the underpinning lattice of the architecture of this particular framework of perception that we exist in for the most part. But the reason I say, other than polarity or the duality of it, I'm talking about with respect to the shear, which you see in the middle that kind of looks like the shape of an S. What that actually is a dynamic. Don't want to get too deep into it, because as I said, I'll explain with more detail in those episodes, probably episode 10, probably more so, as far as the physical aspect of it is concerned. And then the spiritual aspect of it I'll speak about in 11. But the shear is actually the moving part of that which reflects itself in the graphic to the right and the left side, because it is what turns or animates our physical reality. And the two circles that you see there are actually one circle, but both sides of the circle, as if you were going to take a vortex and open it out so that it's flat. You would see the going in and the coming out of the vortex. And that is actually the nature of that symbol that is most commonly known as yin and yang. It's actually a triad, and the shear is that which moves. It represents the animation of that. And as I said, I'll explain it more. There's a situation where 9 is an anchor in the subjective reality, and 6 and 3 operate as do pulsators, which move and animate our objective reality. But as I said, we'll get into that later. But anyway, just as a short Reader's Digest encapsulated version, that's what is on the shirt. All right. And it's also dealing with polarities, which of course we know is one of those rules that are well explained within the Kabbalion. All right. So, in any event, I'm going to go ahead proceed by sharing that clip that I just mentioned to you a moment ago with Brother Bey.
I want to talk about the rapper and actor Mos Def, aka Yasiin Bey. You know, he's been in the news recently due to the fact he was using passport that wasn't recognized in South Africa. It was recognized previously, but for some reason South African government wouldn't recognize the passport which Mos Def was using, which was a passport called the World Passport. And he gives a reason of using that passport, and is recognized by a lot of countries, and it was recognized by South Africa. But for some reason the South African government changed their mind and wouldn't recognize the passport as an official document.
Peace to all, fear of none. This is Yasiin Bey. At this present time, I am currently in Cape Town, South Africa, and I'm being prevented from leaving unjustly, unlawfully, and without any logical reason. They're saying that they want to deport my family. They're making false claims against me. Some of these government officials, even in the press, are making false claims against me, saying that my travel document that I was traveling with is fictitious, which it is not. Anyone can do the research about the World Passport. It's not a fictitious document at all. In fact, World passport has been accepted here on numerous occasions in South Africa, in ports Johannesburg and Cape Town, as early as 1996 and as late as 2015. You can see the stamps. They're there at the World Service Authority for anyone to invest. And I have reason to believe or suspect that there are political motivations behind the way that I'm being treated.
Also, recently, just putting out there, for a lot of people who might not have heard it, Mos Def spoke out against the attacks in Paris and spoke out against the world systems that are in place, and speaking out against the New World Order, the elites that actually run the world, the Illuminati. And he's talking about how, you know, we are being confused, made to fear one another, when we all are one human race. So just check it out. It's quite a long interview. It's about 20 odd minutes. Also, recently he did say that he's going to quit from acting in the music business till further notice. So we'll see what happens.
So what's going on, man?
Alright, so I'm in Germany right now.
Okay.
And I'm about to do a set tonight with Archie Shep, which is a blessing. Just doing Attica Blues. It's just a blessing. As you know, I got a place in Paris.
Yeah.
I've been getting settled there over the last year. So, yeah, this is a heavy one. Let me say this too, though, man. None of this stuff is separated. Everything from Tamir Rice to the Paris shootings to what's happening to the students in University of Missouri to what's happening at Wits to what I've been experiencing in the negative in South Africa. It's all connected, bro. It's all the same thing.
Word.
And it's just these forces, right, that are looking to just turn the world into a brutal place and to turn people into machines. And it's two things, man, that I want you to spread out. And I'm not on Twitter, I'm not on Instagram and all that stuff, and I appreciate people like you who are using the platform for some good things. But I need everybody. I need anybody with a Twitter account, Facebook, whatever. This is the time to be talking about the dignity and nobility of being a human being. Not a machine, not a puppet of the state, of your own desires, right? But for the sanctity and divinity and nobility of being a human being, because this is what's really at stake. They're trying to turn us into machines or just high-functioning mammals, animals, beasts in a jungle that they create. The states, the politicians, the so-called doers of good who claim to have the interest of the planet at heart, and it's a lie, and it's proven itself to be more and more of a lie every day, right? People give all of this trust to the state, but the state hates the people. It is suspicious of people, and it's only there to use people for their benefit and leave people shadows and husk of themselves. This is what these Paris attacks are about. And by the way, a big giant fuck off to ISIS. You don't represent nothing about Islam or nothing about the Prophet. And another giant fuck off to everybody who's trying to say, see, this is Islam's fault. Islam ain't had nothing to do with colonialism or white power or none of that. And neither does Christianity and none of that stuff. And people try to use these beautiful faiths to justify their nonsense and bullshit is just as much as charlatans and posers as the mall rats walking around with skateboards. You're lying. You don't represent nothing. You represent yourself. You represent bloodlust. You've been paid and bought for by people who want to turn this God's gift to spaceship Earth into a hell and a cell. You don't represent nobody. You ain't out here for the common good. You out here for you. And your small little narrow-minded, bigoted, dumbass beliefs. It has nothing to do with the greater good. You ain't helping nobody. You ain't for the Muslims. You ain't for nobody. You're a hazard to everybody. Stop trying to claim us. Like you here for us, you not. This is not what the Prophet was about. The last words in the Quran were, Alaykum dinikum waliyadin. To you be your way, and to me be mine. But I'm not here to defend the sanctity of Islam. That's not what I'm talking about. We are human beings. This spaceship, we all on the same spaceship. We all here together, man. I read these comments on this damn internet, these comment pages, man. People are treating each other so poorly, bruh. People don't know how to disagree even, man. That's the measure of a civilization, brother. Not how well you agree, but how well do you disagree. That's civilized.
Wow.
What world are we leaving to our children? What examples are we leaving to our children, man? Everybody needs to read this Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Post it up, put it on your Twitter, everybody. And Charlie Chaplin's speech from the great dictator. We talk of each other's happiness, not each other's misery. We talk of each other's happiness, not each other's misery. And this is misery, bruh. That they just heaping and heaping on the world. The state kills the children and say that they justify murdering children. They kill unarmed people and say that they justify in doing it. I need everybody who's sad about Paris to be just as sad and angry about Tamir Rice. Now all of these young, innocent people dying over nothing. Dying over somebody's greed, dying over their antiquated, backwards ass beliefs that they're more human than somebody else. Cry for them. And be outraged for them. And let the UN acknowledge the Universal Declaration of Human Rights as a law. Because furthermore, what Holland is talking about doing, closing the borders, how are you going to put innocent people under suspicion for crimes that they did not commit? Closing these borders does not bring back any of them dead people. Not one of them.
Right.
And if it's all about prevention, that's nonsense. I don't think Francois Hollande cared any more about the Parisian people than ISIS.
Right.
I really, really don't. Their response, as usual, is to throw people into more panic, more frenzy. There's nothing wise about these type of responses. It's all meant to just get you into a reactionary phase and to start viewing your brothers and sisters, your human brothers and sisters, with suspicion.
Right.
And hatred and judgment, man. We have to start loving and caring about one another. Because guess what? If we did, this shit would not be going on. And we have trusted these people who say that they love us and say that they're here for us in the names of the state and the government and democracy and the presidency, the Congress, the Senate, and everything else. We have trusted them too much. They're sickening us, they're destroying our world, and they're destroying the future for our children. We cannot just idly stand by and get into these nonsense Bill O'Reilly back and forth exchanges with each other just to prove how clever we are or to win a debate that don't change nothing of the conditions that we are all experiencing. I don't care who you are or where you are, white, black, rich, poor, Jew, Gentile, you are feeling it on this planet Earth today. And mind you, the people playing these games don't know exactly what they're doing. There was a new moon this week. Okay? They're trying to put some poison onto this world. They're trying to set their intentions to turn this world into a cell with everything that they're doing. And they got all of us scrambling around arguing. Are you on the left? Are you on the right? Are you conservative? Are you a liberal? It's nonsense. You know what? It's like Dave Chappelle said when they asked him, they said, who's going to win between Pacquiao and Mayweather? He said the promoters.
Right. Exactly.
That's what's happening. They promote this conflict everywhere. It's Muslims versus the Christians. It's the heterosexuals versus the homosexuals. It's the women versus men. It's youth versus the elders. Right? It's man versus nature. It's always a fight, but there's always somebody or some small group that make money no matter what the outcome is. And they promote conflict. They don't promote harmony. They don't promote peace. They say that, like my grandmother said, they say peace, 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 but they really got evil, wicked intentions in their heart. They want to control people. They want to control what you think, how you think, what you say, where you say it, who you say it to. Read that Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Read it. Post it up. People need to see it. They need to see how the majority of the governments in this world are breaking every part of that agreement.
Right.
And people say, oh, it's not, it's just something to be written down. Well, if it's a standard, it's supposed to be the benchmark for how we're supposed to behave as a civilization and how states are supposed to behave with their members, or how they're supposed to behave with each other, then they have failed. They are failing, and they're actually committing illegal acts. And people don't have enough knowledge of the law.
Brother,
they need to learn the law. They need to learn what the real law is, what international law is. They need to stand up for their rights, because they're taking all of our power away from us and using it against us to destroy us.
I see that. I was most frustrated at the fact of, we've seen this over and over and over. Certain things are deemed terrorism, and it's the worst thing in the world. And people have dependents and they light candles around the world and all of this, when, we've been marching and crying and rolling in the streets. Come on, for all this time.
He was born on June 25th, 2002. He was 12 years old. If you
and it keeps happening. It keeps happening.
Come on, man.
That we do need the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, But I fear that it's not us, you and our group, who we get along, who we see eye to eye with. We're not the ones.
Man, I ain't saying nobody, man. Fuck them all, man. Psalms 34, verse 4. I asked the Lord to deliver me, and He delivered me from all my fears. He delivers me from our fears. What are we afraid of? What are we afraid of? You know what I'm really more afraid of? Than living in the world that they are proposing for us, to these type of actions. For my sons and my daughters to have to live in a world where they got to negotiate a relationship with beasts disguised as human beings. And if you're going to be outraged about what they did at the Bataclan, by the way, people can shut the fuck up. I live in Paris. I performed at the Bataclan. One of my dear friends lost somebody. I don't know who. I don't know who I lost in that personally.
I feel you, bro.
I wish my French was better. I would speak directly in French to the French people, man. Listen, man. Don't be hustled, human beings. Don't be hustled. Don't let them make you think that they care about you. Yeah, Obama was right. This is an attack against humanity. And so is it when Tamir Rice gets shot by the police and the state say that they was justified.
Right.
So is everything that's happening at the University of Missouri. So is Japan's not telling the world the truth about Fukushima.
Right.
That's tyranny too. So is everybody else acting like Fukushima is not a problem for the earth, like all of the oceans ain't connected, like that radioactive dust is not showing up on the shores of Canada right now, like it's not showing up on the shores of California beaches, like it ain't two-headed daisies out here. Like tyranny is tyranny. Period.
Right. Drones.
Tyranny is tyranny. If we're going to be against tyranny, we got to be against it wherever it's at. But it makes me think of that saying that my dad used to say to me. He said, the government is tough on crime because they don't like competition. Okay?
Wow.
Now, it's some bullshit when somebody else who's not licensed, like James Bond or some shit, go out here and kill somebody.
Right, right.
But when they got on a uniform, it's cool. Which says to the sick-minded people of the world, oh, if I want to kill, I need to go get out here and get registered
And
licensed to kill. So I get me a uniform with one of these state appendages, whether it be the police or the military, and I'll subvert all of my murder impulses into that. I'll just aim it at whoever they tell me to aim it at.
Right.
Because I was sitting here waiting for an excuse to kill somebody anyway. And what do they expect? What type of society are you trying to build, civilization you try to build? Yeah, it is a trickle-down theory. The state run around killing people, so the people's like, murder must be all right. I'm not justifying that, but that's what's happening.
That's the thinking behind it.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Who is more violent than the state against humanity? See, people feel it when it's a couple of hundred people that they can look at and see, but nobody feel it when it's half a million Iraqi kids that die from sanctions, right? Or when it's the people going through hell in Palestine. But it's got more of a premium when it's some people, in a smaller group, just out trying to enjoy a Friday night. Didn't you feel it?
Right.
Or when it happened to you, because them kids in Palestine, they ain't you, and that's their own fault. See, it's showing even a media response. And don't trust the media neither, because they're not there to give you the truth and make you feel balanced or tell you the facts. They want you to feel nervous so that you will trust the state more, so that it will endorse and gratify their power and really control over your life. And ultimately, so you can end up being nervous, and your cathartic response is to go to the arcade, the mall, the titty club, wherever, just to offload some of that, to offload all that negative feelings.
Right, right.
That's what they want. They want to keep it stirred up. This is a rating bonanza for all of these quote-unquote news media people. They know people's eyes is glued to the screen. They in shock. They in awe. They hurt. Like I'm hurt right now. And in the interim, they're going to try to sell you every widget and gadget and every other useless damn thing that you can imagine. Because they got you. You're captive. It's an old axiom in news. If it bleeds, it leads. So what they got to do, they got to make sure that people stay bleeding.
Wow.
But see, Psalms 34, verse 4, I asked the Lord to deliver me. He delivered me from all my fears. And this quote is saying in the Quran too, we will not change the condition of a people until they change what is in themselves. You are not going to get a better world hating your fellow man. You can hate the condition, but you have to love your brother and sister. As corny as it sounds, as clever as niggas are, as edgy as they want to be, got a chip on your shoulder because it's fashionable. That's in style. It's very in vogue to be melancholy and moody and edgy and curmudgeonly, right?
Yeah.
But love, man. Love must and will prevail. I don't care how corny it sounds. I ain't trying to win no swag wars. Who cares, man? The world has been in a state of emergency. And I hope that these type of things make people wake up, man. We can treat each other like this, man. If you just get rid of them, it's going to be gone. The problem is not Islam. The problem ain't organized religion, patriarchy, all of these. The problem is all of these things that have dysfunctions to them, or people who dysfunction within them, these systems, right? The problem is people's lack of compassion and care for themselves and for their fellow human beings. And that's what gets all of this nonsense going. We don't treat each other well. We need to treat each other better than what we're doing. And we need to stop giving our allegiance to people who are mistreating us. And the governments, particularly the U.S. government, many of the Western governments, they are mistreating their own citizens and people around the world. And they have a long legacy of this. And it has to stop.
Right on.
Has to stop. It is illegal to deny access to this planet Earth to anybody. We are all on this spaceship. I don't want to hear a motherfucking another thing about Mars.
Right.
We don't deserve Mars if we can't do right by Earth. We don't deserve it. Shut the fuck up about Mars and do right by Earth. You wouldn't have to fucking go to Mars. By the way, we're already in outer space with you clever asses. We're already here.
Right.
On this spaceship Earth, propelling, spinning all the time. Everything that we need is here. I don't want to hear nothing about colonizing, nothing else. No more fucking colonial fictions and fantasies. Earth is sufficient. But if we don't do right by each other, we will eliminate ourselves. The trees, the oceans, the mountains, they don't give a fat baby's ass. They will continue to go on as they've been. We will eliminate ourselves. Please don't make Bill Gates right. This is sounding like some Gates that we need to thin out the herd. You got fucking radioactive Fukushima over here, police running crazy everywhere. And I was walking around in Paris just this summer. I'm like, wow, these people on the streets with motherfucking AK-47s and all that shit. That don't make me feel secure.
Right. Wow.
They're trying to drive people into a state of high stress so people don't have the space to really slow it down, love themselves, and love one another, and work their problems out for themselves, because guess what? We got the answers within us. Why these ugly knuckleheads with ties and lifelong pensions representing the people? You don't represent the people. You represent yourself. You represent the banks. You represent the corporations. You represent the niggas that keep the tanks running around the world, crushing people, digging resources out of the earth to mold them into guns that murder. Talking about we making the world safer. You're destroying the world. The world that we all got to share. If they're so dumb that they think they're going to build some high fence where they can dominate the world from a striking safe distance, and they won't be in misery. Let me tell you what my grandfather used to tell me. He tell all of us that to keep a man in the hole, you got to get in that hole with him.
Wow.
Some part of you is in that hole. If you're trying to keep him in that hole, some part of your mind and your spirit is right there in that hole with him. Whoever you digging a hole for, you really digging it for yourself.